Hello, welcome back to the Purpose, Profits, and Pixie Dust podcast. I'm Lindsay Dollinger, and I am super excited for our guest today. I was just thinking that we need to talk more to women about all sorts of financial things, so we're definitely, hopefully, going to dive into that with Miss Aimee Burton. So, Aimee, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Lindsay. I'm very excited to be here.
Yay. Okay, so guys, I'm going to read Aimee's bio to you, so just to give you a little bit of a background on her. And then, like we always get started on our interviews, I'm going to ask Aimee to fill in the gaps for us on how she got there. Sort of her, what do they call it? I want to say founder story, and that's not it. Oh my gosh. The Disney term. Okay, well, anyway, it's not important. All right, so here we go. We have with us today Aimee Burton. She is a licensed financial broker and agency owner in BC, Canada. So one of our first Canadian guests on the show, so welcome for that. She helps families, individuals, and business owners with financial education, holistic financial plans, including strategies to pay off debt quicker, protect your income and assets, and get your money working harder for you. So all really important things, and I can't wait to dive into those. As a broker, she doesn't charge clients a fee and is instead compensated through the financial institutions and providers that she helps her clients access. Her growing agency now has 7 licensed advisors and is rapidly expanding across Canada and the US. Aimee's also a mom, wife, and a human design reader. Okay, didn't know that. Love that. Who loves being outside, living a healthy life, personal growth, and making new friends wherever she goes. And Aimee and I connected in the mastermind that we are both in. So anyway, you're going to love Aimee. So Aimee, tell us a little bit more about you. What did I not mention? How did you become what you are doing now? Maybe let's start there. How did that journey look like for you? Because I love hearing people's journeys to get to where they are today.
Yeah, for sure. It's always the best part, the story, the juicy story.
Yeah. Tell us the thing.
Yeah, totally. I would be more than happy to. And thank you so much for having me on the show. I love your energy. I love everything you're up to in the world. So very excited to be here.
Thank you.
So I started out, actually, you know what, when I think about my story, I really spent probably the better part of my 20s playing around in the network marketing business model. And I was really introduced to it by my mom when I was a teenager. She always had some kind of like home-based business when I was growing up. So I knew that that was an option. And as soon as I always say, like, once you learn something, it's pretty hard to unlearn it. And so as soon as I was introduced to the idea that you could have your own business, you could work from home, you could build leverage and passive income and impact people's lives positively and build a team and have an unlimited earning potential. Once I had learned all of those things, I was like, well, I can't just go and get a regular job now. Of course, I did work different jobs throughout my 20s. I worked in hospitality, the service industry, small business management, nonprofit even for a little while. But really, my passion has always been to build freedom, to have freedom, to build a life that I'm super passionate about and excited about. And so I did network marketing for about 10 years. I did achieve some levels of success there, but I did find it to be a bit of a struggle. And I think looking back on it now, I know that the company that I was with, although they had amazing products, they did not have the best business systems, and we never really got to a point of like momentum and major growth. And so it was kind of like trying to push a rock uphill. As much as I was trying, I just found it really hard to get traction and get like a good amount of success. So then fast forward, in 2019, my husband and I decided, we were not married at that time, but we had some big conversations. I was going through a big internal decision about like, do I want to be a mom or not? And I ended up deciding I did want to be a mom and start a family, and we ended up getting on the same page and getting pregnant in 2020, and everything kind of shifted at that point in time. So my network marketing company actually decided to change their business model entirely. So I lost my downline, I lost my customer base, which ended up being fine because it was like the closing door that needed to happen, you know?
Yep.
And I'm a very loyal person, so it was hard for me to walk away, but when they changed everything, I was like, okay, I can start over.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So then what happened?
So many people, I'm so sorry, but there's so many companies that is happening to right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it all over social,
Yes.
but I feel like there's probably for sure people listening right now who are like in the thick of that. So they're going to be particularly interested in like, okay, how was she able to turn this around? Like, how did this end up being a blessing?
Exactly. I know. And sometimes you need something like that to happen, because I know for myself, it was just really hard to quit, I'm not a quitter. I'm like, I will just keep going until I make this work. But the door closed, and that allowed for another door to open. And so actually in that time period as well, I was really getting into human design, and I was just on a quest. I was like, what is the next thing for me? What am I really here to do? What am I meant to do? And human design allowed me to do a lot of self-reflection. So much so that I decided to actually get trained to read human design charts, because I just felt so excited about that at the time. I'm a generator, so I'm supposed to do what I'm excited about. Yeah. Okay. So I did that. And then as I was pregnant, and I had learned that my company was going to be changing and shutting down, I just sort of had this nice sigh of relief. I was like, okay, I'm just going to focus on being a mom and put aside for a little while my dream of building a business. My husband had a very successful business, so we were okay financially, and I was actually able to take a nice sort of like maternity leave with my son. But when he was 6 months old-ish, I started thinking about, 4 or 5 months, I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit less sleep deprived now. I'm thinking about like, okay, what do we do to set him up? Like, can we start him an education savings plan? Like, what do we do now that we're parents? Right. I was really on it about like, what are we doing with our money? Where are we putting it? How are we investing it? And that's what led me to a conversation with the senior broker who I sat down with. He helped us put a plan together, and he had some amazing strategies for my husband and I in terms of what we could do with our business, because it was an incorporated business, and there's different things you can do when you have that structure. And it blew our minds. I was like, how did we not know this? 10 years as business owners, we did not know this stuff was a strategy at all, like had no idea. So that got me excited again, and I was like, you know what? I feel like I could take my skill set from network marketing, and I could come over here and I could work in the financial industry, build relationships, serve clients, help families. And I knew that there was also the component where I could build an agency and build a team. But I wasn't immediately eager to do that. I kind of just wanted to honestly do my own thing for a little bit and not worry about a team. But of course, like if you've ever done that before, and if you've experienced the fulfillment of like helping other people succeed, it wasn't long before I was like, okay, I'm here, I'm going to build a team, I'm going to help other people. And so now I really balance my time. It's like my clients get a lot of attention. I love supporting families and business owners, especially women. And then growing our licensed agency as well. And we're able to do that across North America, but so far we're a Canadian team, and just kind of going to step into the US market as I make the right connections over across the border. So that's been that. And then the transition to motherhood was really nice to have a flexible work situation too. I feel like timing wise, like everything always works out perfectly, and it sounded like it did for you. Is your husband in your business as well, or is it a separate business that he does? No, very separate. He's a chiropractor. So he's a health professional. A doctor of chiropractic, and he had his own clinic for 10 years, and then decided to sell the practice around the time that I was actually starting this business. So he took a full year sabbatical, and then I did encourage him. I made him get a license, a financial license, because I said, if something happens to me, all my clients, all the residuals, all the trail commissions that I'm building up, they would seamlessly go to him as long as he's licensed. So we did do that. Nice. But he is still working in the healthcare field.
I wasn't exactly sure. I was like, I know he has a business, but I'm not sure if it's like same one, different, but sounds like very different. I actually was just at the chiropractor this afternoon. Love my chiropractor. Big fan of chiropractic care. All right, so let's dive in and talk a little bit about we'll start with maybe how women can set their business up for financial success. What sort of tips do you have for us along those lines to really, because like I mentioned, I feel like this is like one of the biggest areas of improvement that we as women entrepreneurs get to do, is like really taking control of this and getting really good at this.
Yes, 1,000%. And I can just, I cringe when I think back, Lindsay, to 10 years ago, because I'm like, oh, I just did everything wrong the first time around. I lumped everything. It was like personal bank account, business, everything was all in one spot. I just had like my credit card. I would do whatever, like business expenses, personal expenses, which is fine, technically speaking. If you're not an incorporated business, you are just like a sole proprietor. It is all one thing, but I really think that women, especially who are still working, like you have a job or you have your other source of income and then you're building your business on the side, I think we need to give our business the independence, financially speaking, so that it can eventually stand on its own 2 feet and be a financially successful business, which is the only way that we're ever going to be able to quit our full-time job or whatever it is you're doing as well. So I would say from the very get-go, even if your business is so part-time right now, you can still create those financial systems for yourself. You can open a separate bank account and make sure that your business income flows through there, make sure that your business expenses flow out of there. You can get yourself a separate credit card. I didn't go and open like any kind of special business related account or business related credit card to start with. It's just like I just have 2 personal checking accounts, and one of them I use for business and one of them I use for personal. So I think that's a super important starting point for people. And if you're not there right now, then that's a pretty simple thing to switch up and just make sure that you can make that separation. And that's the easiest way to know, am I making money? Like, am I profitable? Yeah. And then of course there's,
sorry. I just did that for the first time like a year ago. And I'm like, why did I just do this? Like, it wasn't as scary as I was making it out to be. Now, I will say, the one, was it a credit union? I think it was a credit union. Were kind of giving me a hard time because I went in to ask to do a business bank account, and they wanted, it had like a bunch of extra fees, and I was like, oh, just kidding, I want to open another personal checking. And then the woman was like, well, if it's for your business, I can't do it. And I'm like, lady, I've been running it through my business, through my personal account for 10 years, and you had no idea. I'm like, yes, you can. Yeah. So then I ended up going to like a different branch of my same credit union and opening it up with them. I was like, well, I just need another personal account, please. And then I just like called it something else, in my back end, in my online, because I was like, this is ridiculous.
No, exactly. Like, I just think it's so, as soon as you mention the word business, it's like fees, like everything costs more.
It does.
Yeah, for sure. You don't need to go that far, especially if you're not at the stage of being incorporated and all of that. It's just like, it's you're just going to create a little bit of, something there where you can mentally separate the two for your own self. Yeah.
Okay. So now we have our business bank accounts separate. What's something else that we can do?
Yeah. So I think that everyone needs some kind of financial tracking system. And I think in the beginning, you don't necessarily need to go out and hire a bookkeeper. It's going to cost you, right? It's going to cost you money to pay someone else to manage all that. Maybe you do fork out the money to pay for like an accountant or someone. I always forget in the States what you guys call like CPA or anyway, but someone to file your taxes, right?
Yeah.
If you're totally overwhelmed by that and you're like, I just want someone to do that, then definitely pay an expert to do that. But to know what's happening like month by month in your business cash flow, I think is so powerful. And that's something I didn't do for years. And I think that contributed to my income just never going beyond a certain point. I never really sat down and like was honest with myself about how much I was making. And now what I've chosen to do, not necessarily the right thing for everyone, there's different systems you can decide to use, but I just use a simple Google spreadsheet to track income and expenses, and then it pulls everything into like a month by month, so I can see, did I make money in July? How much money did I make? How much did I pay myself personally? What were my expenses? All that stuff. So that's a system that I think is totally important, again, if you want to have a profitable business too. And you can use there's different software. Some people want to go ahead and get like some kind of actual bookkeeping software to use. But also, and that's another expense, which I don't think you necessarily need right away.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but just the snapshot.
So I use the Google spreadsheet as well. And I actually use one for tracking all my expenses. It has been really helpful for me because then I just pull it up at tax time and it's like dated and it adds it all up and all that. I'm curious for keeping track of expenses if you have any other sort of system, or do you use something similar like Google spreadsheet?
Yeah, definitely just the spreadsheet. I mean, I'm pretty vigilant about using my business, the credit card that I've assigned to my business. It's not actually a business credit card, but I have a specific credit card and then I have a specific bank account. So it makes it easy to know where I've spent money. I rarely pay for anything in cash because otherwise I'm just like, I'm going to lose the receipt or whatever.
Yeah.
And of course I do have some physical paper receipts, but they're all the same, like they're backed up on my actual statements.
Right.
So to me, that's just a formality, like, okay, yes, I do technically have a piece of paper somewhere to back that up. Yeah. But just having your financial transactions streamlined make it easy for you to look them up, download a statement, import that into your spreadsheet, then you just kind of have it all there. And I guess I'm in a slightly different boat, like depending on how someone's business is, like how you receive payment, that can be a whole thing too, right? So for me, it's just commission income and it's direct deposit through our brokerage agency direct deposits me when I earn commission, and then they create a T4A. So much like in a network marketing business, you're going to get a T4A with your commissions. If you're, like your business running different masterminds or courses or whatever, then you're using some kind of processor, whether it's Kajabi or Stripe or whatever, Square, or what are these things these days. And so if, as much as I guess you can streamline where money is coming in as well, so that you can track it easily. And then there's tax and stuff like that, but that's going to be super different depending where people are located. Canada, US, different states.
That makes sense. I just stopped accepting Stripe payments. I do Kajabi and I offer PayPal as well. And the big reason for that, one, Kajabi was offering a little bit lower of a rate, but just for that reason where I'm like streamlining and keeping everything in a couple of different systems so that when it is tax time, I'm able to like just easily pull the reports and then there we go, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's so important. Yeah, so cash flow,
Oh, and then the other thing I was going to say is the business credit card is such a good idea. I never thought about having one, even if it wasn't actually a business credit card, but just a credit card for my business to help keep track of all that, because I do still mix and use a couple of different personal credit cards for things. And I'm like, okay, now I'm going to look, because I love anything that I can systemize and make just a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Like, sign me up. And I think that's such a smart tip.
Yeah, totally. There's the odd thing, like I know for myself personally, I run my cell phone bill through my business credit card, and technically I'm writing off maybe 70% of my cell phone bill as business, 30% personal or something, some kind of a split. But still, I'm going to put anything like that that's mostly business related, I'm just going to put it through that card just to, I love that. Have it there.
All right, is there anything else that we can do to set ourselves up for financial success as an entrepreneur?
Oh, yes. I kind of put it into two other major categories that I would say are quite important that people may or may not be thinking about. So obviously, you're going to need to set your own financial goals for your business and figure out what amount of cash flow you need to earn to cover your expenses to actually be making money and be profitable. There's two things that I think business owners should really consider, and one is planning for their future, like for retirement, and the other is protection or like insurance. So I know, so I sat down with a financial advisor when I was like 26 or 27, and I was like doing my network marketing business, I'm all gung-ho and everything, and he was like, well, what would happen, you want to be self-employed, you want to ultimately quit your job, you're not going to have any benefits, you're not going to have a retirement plan, you're not going to have any of these things that an employer usually provides for us. And so I think business owners need to start thinking about that. And if you are that sort of part-time business owner still with, full-time employment, it's not as urgent, but you're going to need to make that transition at some point. And so that means figuring out how are you going to fund your retirement, and also how are you going to protect yourself and your family for in the event of like an illness, a disability, or even passing away, if you're a provider, if you're a parent, or if you're a homeowner and you have a mortgage, things like that. So 2 big categories, but that's where finding somebody that's like a financial advisor or a broker or someone that can help you to just understand your options is super important. And then building that into your business cash flow projections. So like, yes, I want to look at, okay, I want to make sure I cover all my expenses to run my business, but I also need to make sure that in my personal income, I am factoring in like an amount that I need to save for retirement and an amount that I'm going to allocate towards the right kind of insurance protection so that if I get sick, I can't work, or something is going on, that I'm going to be financially okay.
Yeah, that's huge. Both those things are huge. And it's something that I wish more people talked about, especially in you have a side hustle and you want to transition into this being your full-time gig, because when I first sat down and started doing those numbers, I was like, oh, okay, well, if I make $100,000, that'll replace my teaching income, I'll be able to quit. And then I'm like, except there's no money going toward retirement. I have to pay for not only health insurance, but like you said, like that disability insurance. Like I had a really bad fall in April, broke my legs, and thankfully I had disability insurance, and that helped with some of those expenses. And I'm like, okay, now I need to add that bill on top because that is something that I will always have moving forward. And so I think there's a lot of those pieces. When I started adding up to the number that I would actually need to replace my income, it's a lot higher than that 100K, right? And so I definitely think that's really important, and something that a lot of people don't realize. Everyone just talks about the 100K all the time, and like that's a goal, and that's a great goal to have, but like can that really sustain all these pieces like you're talking about, right?
Yeah, and we have the great advantage when we are earning our income through business, through self-employment, that we are only going to pay taxes on our net income after our business expenses. So we can end up having a lower tax bill than when we're an employee. But yes, we still need to remember those other things that an employee, when we look at our pay stub, it's like these things all just get deducted, right? And then you see what you are left with, that's what you work with. And as a business owner, you're like, okay, all of these parts are still me. I gotta figure out all these different line items. Yeah.
Okay, maybe this is something, I'm sure it's definitely an individualized question, but do you have a sort of formula? A lot of my listeners are women in their late 30s, 40s, and they are trying to make that leap to do this full time. Do you have a formula for like 20% of what you earned needs to go towards your retirement? Like, do you have a way for us to kind of start figuring that out? Or is it like completely individualized and everyone needs to come talk to you?
Yeah, well, it definitely is individualized, and I think that the way that people think about it, it actually should be, it's less so about a percentage of what you're currently earning and more so about reverse engineering to the end goal. So what someone needs in retirement is going to be very different depending on your lifestyle, where you live, what the cost of living is, and sort of what your plan is for that. Like some people are homeowners and they plan to downsize when they retire. So they're going to sell their main home, they're going to move into something smaller, and that's going to free up a bunch of capital that can be part of your retirement funds. Other people are renting and they're not sure if they're ever going to buy, and that means that you have to factor in like the cost of rent into your retirement. Like that's going to be a continued cost for you. So we do a process with people where we help them figure out what their financial independence number is. And that's a matter of like thinking about, okay, we don't know the future and there's a lot of variables, things could change, but your best guess of what you think your retirement is going to look like or what you would like it to look like, because I'm all about like, we can design this, we can plan this, we can do it, we can, we don't have to just think small and be like, oh, maybe I can live on $2,000 a month or whatever. Like, no, we're going to like, what do you actually want to live on? And once we know if someone has a cash flow goal in retirement of whatever, $10,000 a month or whatever the number is, then we can reverse engineer and say, okay, well, if you have a nest egg of your assets, your investments that you've built up over time, of X number of dollars, then it's going to generate for you a passive income in retirement of this amount. And that's how we can then reverse engineer like how much people need to save now. So it's more so about really figuring out what you want retirement to look like. What is that going to cost? and then doing some math. And what we work with is like, okay, what kind of rates of return can you get on your money? What are the tax implications? Because depending on where you invest or where you save your money, some of those types of accounts are tax sheltered, or there's no tax on your withdrawals, but a lot of them there is tax on your withdrawals. So you have to remember that the amount that you see in that account is not actually all yours.
Yep.
And then just figuring out, and unfortunately for a lot of people, it's a reality check as to how much they would actually need to be saving right now to make it to that goal. Like I know in Canada, I don't know the stats for the US, I'm sure it's similar, but we have like basically 90% of Canadians that are retiring at the poverty line.
Oh, I believe it.
Like, it's crazy, right? It's like, and that's why we see 65-year-olds, 70-years still working. They're at McDonald's, at Walmart. They're,
just gonna say that.
Yeah.
It is sad, and it's like the concept of saving money is so, I don't even know if overwhelming, and I don't know if it's generational. I don't know if it's because, women couldn't even have credit cards until, how many years ago, right? So, like, I feel like it's always like, well, women are bad at money, and then it just creates this cycle of us not taking control of those things. Like you're saying, it's really like that education piece. And like I said, when I sat down and I actually was like mapping out my expenses, and I didn't even do this with a financial planner, so it's possible that number is even higher. I was just doing like from the little bit that I know, I'm like, damn, I need to I need to be doing something else. Like I need to be saving some more. I need to be finding other ways. And you mentioned investment, so I would love to touch on that a little bit, because that is something that I didn't get into until a couple years ago, and I wish I would have started sooner. So talk maybe a little bit about investment. I feel like investments are something that's really scary for a lot of people, especially if you didn't grow up with a family who encouraged that. I'll stop talking. Tell us a little bit about investments, maybe some things that women can consider doing. And again, I know a lot of it will be individualized, but what are some advice that you can give to someone who maybe hasn't started investing yet?
Yeah, that's definitely a regret that I have too, is that in my 20s, I really prioritized investing in my own personal growth and in my own sort of like business adventures and things, which I think is also very important and a very good investment, really. But I wish I had just put $50 aside a month or something, right? Like I wouldn't have missed it. It would have been like, one dinner out, one night out, whatever. Like just set it up, start doing it, and put that money aside without any thought about like, it's just for the future, right? It's for long-term future. So I definitely have that regret for myself, that I didn't start sooner. And that's part of what we show people is like, the amount, if you just start doing a certain amount per month and you start to get compound interest going, then it's amazing what that can turn into over 30 years. But if you only have 10 years or 20 years, like it doesn't grow, it's not as exciting, right? So I think on a basic level, investing, it really doesn't have to be so scary. It's just again, it's this thing that people haven't been taught, and a lot of us haven't had good role models. My parents didn't really do much investing, so who are we going to learn from? We don't really get it in school. And you're right, women have only been financially independent for about 50 years, so that's really not a very long time. Like you think about our parents' generation, like the women were not, they were just starting to get that independence, right? So so we're digging ourselves out. We're getting lots of women are becoming more interested in investing, more interested in just in general financial empowerment and understanding our money. And women do an amazing job investing, and they like, there's always these reports of like the most profitable, companies that are run by women CEOs and all of this. Like there's a lot of success happening for women that are in these financial roles. But I think you can just, like, to simplify it down, it's like the stock market goes up and down, but the overall trend is up. And so if we can just get some money into the stock market in a very, like, the kind of the safest or the least risky way to do that is just to get into like index funds, which are like a big basket. It's like all the companies that are doing stuff in the stock market. You're kind of just owning a little piece of all of that. And you can do those through, a lot of people are getting into doing their own investing these days, which you can totally do. Or if you want to work with an advisor, find somebody who is like not a 65-year-old male is my advice. It's just like find someone a bit younger, someone who's a bit more progressive in terms of the investment choices and how they're going to help you do that. But start somewhere. Start as soon as you possibly can. Even if you're starting with $25 a month, you will thank yourself later. And where you can get professional help is just really in figuring out the types of accounts to use, because those do differ quite a bit. Canada to the US, like we have quite different names for our different accounts, Roth IRAs and 401ks and RRSPs in Canada and TFSAs in Canada. And so you need to understand the types of accounts that are available to you. Yep. And then inside of a type of an account, you're then going to have choices around types of investments. And types of investments can be like super, super low risk, but you also don't really get much of a rate of return, up to like more risk and potential for higher returns. But I'm overall a fan of like get into index funds, something that is like a very diversified option, and just kind of ride the wave. Like over time, the trend for the overall market is like up at an average of about 10% per year.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I just thought, let's see, that I'm going to prove my ignorance. I don't even know what they're called. Or not, I didn't buy. I guess you don't say buy because it wasn't stocks, but I put money into a certain retirement account that's getting like 4% return, but it's like the safest one.
Yeah.
But I'm like, hey, you know what? I will take the 4% because and it's that family thing. Like my family, my dad worked at a credit union. He was a CEO of a credit union and is very for the safe, lower return, not dealing in the stock market. And so when I opened up an account with some in the stock market with some index funds, it was like this whole thing. And I'm like, okay, we got to educate. I talked to, my advisor. I'm young enough that if something happened, it's a low amount of money. It's not like I'm putting my entire retirement in it or anything like that. It was like you said, like $50 a month or something. To just try it and see what happens. And, like you said, it's money that you wouldn't miss otherwise. So, why not play around with it a little bit and see what that can do for you.
Yeah. And everyone does have a different risk profile. We're not all the same. And I would never want someone's savings to be causing them anxiety, like if they're like, oh, it's way too risky or whatever. It needs to match with your objectives, your time horizon, and your risk tolerance. But I do think that there's just a general misunderstanding about what it's like, what it actually means to invest in the stock market. And with a little bit of education, I find most people are like, oh yeah, okay, I'm in. Like this makes sense. I understand it. Now I understand when we're talking about risk, I understand what risk I'm actually taking. Yep. When it's money that you're not planning on using in the next 20 years, like you can take a little bit more risk potentially.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. I love that. Okay, Aimee, actually no. We're going to share in just a second how people can work with you, because I have a feeling that a lot of women are going to be like, okay, I'm intrigued now. Let's figure this out. But I have a couple guests I said that on my last show too. I have a couple questions that I want to ask my guests. So first one, do you have a morning routine, an evening routine, neither, both, and what's it look like?
Yeah, I love that question. No. I'm kidding.
Okay, no, that's
as a mom, no, I'm just
like,
kidding.
No. Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, I strive to, but it definitely is not the same thing every day. I really try, one thing that I really try to do is not be on my phone, like right before I go to bed. Reading is my preferred. Reading or journaling, like, you know, gratitudes or just like reflecting on the day or whatever before bed. And in the morning, again, being a mom and having a 3.5-year-old that's like very unpredictable in his sleep schedule, I find it so tricky to have any kind of consistency in the morning. But if I can get up before him, my ideal morning is, you know, sipping coffee and journaling or reading. You know, in our mastermind group, we talk about like scripting and different manifestation techniques. So that's something I really like to do. I try to fit in exercise. It's not an everyday thing, but I get in that in the morning usually. And just sort of like setting the stage for my day, which I try to do the night before, is like, you know, top priorities for the next day. Looking at my calendar and making sure I'm prepared for like what is coming up the next day. Yeah.
Same. Yeah. I love it. And,
so
and that's
simple.
The thing is, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, right? Because you're doing what works for you. And I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite personal development book or business book, or one that maybe you recommend to people?
Oh my God, there's so many. So many. It's funny. Okay, so the one that first popped into my mind is a book I read over 10 years ago that I feel like it set the foundation for my relationship, like my marriage, my partnership, and as well like how I show up in the world. And I think it's really impacted my business, all my relationships in business as well. And that's The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Okay, I've heard of it. I've heard of it. Yeah, I haven't read it though.
Yeah, it's almost a spiritual book. It's four kind of principles for living, and it's just really like, it's short and sweet, but it was so impactful to me in terms of how I live my life. So I would say that that's a great one for people to read. And then, I don't know, more recently, in terms of more business books, I've been really loving 10X is Easier Than 2X and Buy Back Your Time.
Mastermind recommendations. Right?
Yeah, from our group. Yeah, for sure. What else have I got on the go?
These are great recommendations.
There's so many.
I recommended 10X to someone very recently.
Yeah. I love the badass books too by Jen Sincero, like how to be a badass. And then there's the one about money too. Those are so fun to read, entertaining, and also just, awesome. Yeah. So, yeah.
I meant to ask you, do you have any financial podcasts or I don't even know what the videos or anyone that you like to follow for getting the info in your finances? Like, do you have anything like that you want to share with us?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's quite a few. Someone I've followed for a really long time because just a lot of commonalities, but I've always loved Kate Northrup. And she wrote a book about money back in the day, and she talks a lot about the money in the context of being a woman, being a business owner, and the more energetic side of money, right?
Oh, cool. Okay.
Not so much like financial planning and strategies and those types of things, but more so like energetically, how can we attract more money and all that. Yeah. So I follow her, Kate Northrup. Let me think. I've got a few podcasts that I listen. There's a couple that are Canadian specific. There's one that's like Build Wealth Canada. There's and so it's very specific to like the types of accounts and things that we have in Canada. There's quite a few in the States, although what have I actually listened to recently? Money with Katie is one about personal finance, but she's also just pretty funny and kind of has a
okay, I've never heard of that one.
Money with Katie. I'd have to like look at my podcast app. I'm forgetting what else.
Oh, that's okay. I was just curious. If you had any off the top of your head that you were like, that's 3 great options right there for listeners.
There's a few. There's a starting point. Yeah. There's also some real estate investing ones. I'm getting more interested in real estate investing too. So I've been checking some of those podcasts out, and I listen to a lot of podcasts that are about business building. Really, to be honest.
Yep. Those are like my favorites. Awesome. Okay, and then a kind of selfish question that I just like to know, what is your dream destination? Or if you've already visited it, what is like the place that you absolutely love most in the world?
Oh yeah, great question. I think somewhere that I would really like to go that I haven't yet is like Greece and Italy. I've done Portugal and England, but not that part of Europe. So Greece and Italy for sure. And I would also love to see more of the Caribbean. I have been to South America and I loved that. So Peru, Bolivia, Argentina, and Uruguay. That was a really cool trip.
Cool.
Yeah.
I haven't done Uruguay and I haven't been to Bolivia, but I've done Peru, Argentina, Chile, and I was supposed to go to Ecuador in 2020, and didn't end up happening. So I gotta add that back on the list. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, Aimee, now tell us, where can everyone find you? I'll be sure to stick this in the show notes too, so that listeners can just click links. But how can they work with you? Where can they find you? Tell us all the things.
Yeah, so probably the easiest way, I think a lot of us are hanging out on Instagram these days, so at BeFreeAimee, and my name is spelled Aimee if you're just listening to this. And I do have, my website is aimeeburton.com, but I'm just in the process of it transitioning over to BeFreeFinancialTeam.ca. That's in progress right now, so depending when this is posted, it may not be live yet. That will be a spot where we're going to kind of gather the different free financial resources and things that I've put together for people. But on Instagram right now, people can find a couple of options. There's a link to book a call with me. I'm licensed in Canada, so I can't actually support directly people in the States in terms of opening investment accounts or doing insurance products for you, but I'm happy to connect in the DMs and just see if I can maybe refer someone who is local. It's pretty state by state, I think, down there as far as people being licensed to do those things. I am definitely seeking some people that want to work in the financial industry in the States to partner with and get licensed in your corresponding state. But yeah, I've got a few workshops that I'm happy to, free things I can send out to people relating to business finances and just kind of getting that big picture of what you're doing with your money as a business owner.
Awesome. Nice.
Yeah.
So you can help us if we want to invest, or if we want to join your team, you can help us too. So both ways.
Yeah. Both ways, yeah. And if there are Canadians listening, I don't know if you got too many Canadian listeners, but I've got a financial guide for parents that I put together, which is specific to Canada. So it's about our Canadian government child support program, our education savings plans that we have in Canada, and things like that. So that's also a free resource.
Awesome. Well, Aimee, this has been super informative. I know everyone hopefully feels as inspired as I do to okay, let's continue getting the finances even more together than they already are, because this is really important. And like you said, it is something I almost feel that we're definitely blessed to be able to do it, but I almost feel now that we have this responsibility, because like you said, our moms, when they were born, I don't know how old everyone's mom is, but I know when my mom was born, this wasn't an option for her, right? This is something that new, and let's do this. Let's show and prove to the world that women can be just as financially empowered, if not more, than men can. So I love this so much. Thank you.
Yeah, love it so much. Thanks for having me, Lindsay. It's been great.
You're welcome.